Oh, what a tangled web one hit song can weave. The story of this feature spotlight track jumbles the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Eurythmics, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, even Alice in Wonderland. How in the world did all of this happen? Find out next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you long for the days of early MTV where they actually played music videos, you're going to dig this channel. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the bell so you never miss out. Right here we go deep with the artists who have created the soundtrack of your lives, stories of the songs. We also have a Patreon that you're going to want to check out below. There you'll find an additional catalog of exclusive content. You can even become an honorary producer on our channel and help us curate this history. And we also have new merch right below. So I'm going to start this feature by inventing a term, romcom. It's my name for a rock and roll romantic comedy. That's how I would describe the origin story of the song Don't Come Around Here No More by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Now, the tale began to simmer backstage at a Eurythmics concert at the Wooten Theater in Los Angeles in 1983. Eurythmics were white hot, fresh off one of the most captivating hits of the year with Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. This was a huge international smash, you'll remember. Now, the show was packed with celebrities and music industry dignitaries that were curious to see the exciting duo of one Annie Lennox and Dave Stewart. After the concert, the backstage area was a scene of who's who in Hollywood in the early 80s. One of the stars hanging out backstage was Stevie Nicks. Stevie was standing in the dressing room doorway and immediately caught the eyes of Dave Stewart. Dave remembered that Stevie was wearing a faux fur coat that reminded him of the first time that he met Annie Lennox. Surprisingly, Dave did not know who she was, but he was immediately smitten by her intriguing beauty and her long flowing hair. Now, when Stevie recounted meeting Dave for the first time at that backstage encounter, she recalled Dave looking at her straight in the eye and saying, "I want to be your boyfriend." Unbeknownst to Dave, Stevie had just split up with her boyfriend, Joe Walsh, the day before. Apparently, Stevie and Joe had a huge fight and broke up. And Stevie invited Dave to go back to her house for a party. And a few moments later, Dave was in the back of a limo with Stevie Nicks and her backup singers on their way to Stevie's house. Dave didn't even have a chance to change out of his sweaty stage clothes before they left for Stevie's place for this party. So when Dave and Stevie and her friends got to Stevie's house, Dave wandered from room to room while Stevie and her friends disappeared into a bathroom to indulge on some substance. After what seemed like hours passing, Dave grew tired and having no idea what part of LA he was actually in or what hotel he and Annie and the band were staying in. He fell asleep in one of the bedrooms, and that was around 3 a.m. Are you with me so far? So Dave was awakened by the sounds of rustling doors and closets. This is around 5 a.m., only to find Stevie Nicks in the room where he had been sleeping, trying on Victorian-style clothing, and then the two rock stars had a romantic tryst. He described the surreal experience as being like something from out of Alice in Wonderland. At 9:30 a.m. on that same strange morning, Stevie woke Dave up frantically, telling him he had to leave because someone may be coming over to collect their clothes and things. Could get tricky. All Dave had to hear was the word tricky, and he knew he had to get out of Dodge very fast. He quickly phoned his management and found out the hotel that his band was staying at, and he prepared to leave. While waiting for a cab to whisk him away, Joe Walsh came a-knocking, trying to see Stevie Nicks. From the other side of the door, Stevie angrily told Joe Walsh to leave the premises, yelling the words, "Don't come around here no more."
Don't come around here no more.
Dave Stewart could not get what Stevie screamed at Joe Walsh out of his head. After the Eurythmics show in San Francisco, less than 24 hours after his fling with Stevie, Dave began constructing a song built around the line, "Don't come around here no more." Dave kept thinking about that intense situation with Joe Walsh storming Stevie Nicks' house to see his ex-lover and Stevie telling him to get out. Over and over, he's saying to himself, "Don't come around here no more." And he used a Porta Studio to create a music track with a drum machine, a synthesizer, and a sitar. A few days later, during some time off from the Eurythmics tour, Dave was back in LA, staying with his friend, record producer Jimmy Iovine. Things got juicier from there. Once again, Dave Stewart was unaware about one of Stevie Nicks' previous relationships. Apparently, before she was with Joe Walsh, Stevie had a live-in romance with Jimmy Iovine. You still with me? Jimmy and Stevie were living together in 1981 when Jimmy was producing Stevie's enormously successful solo album, Belladonna. And even though they were no longer a couple, Jimmy was set to produce her next solo record, The Wild Heart. So let's pause right there for a second, collect her thoughts. I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. At Zenni.com, you can design your own frames, the color, the style, and the shape. And then you can add great features, my favorite being blue blocks. They protect your eyes from digital blue light that we come into contact every day. You're really going to enjoy it. Check it out today.
Whatever you're looking for.
So Dave Stewart played the demo of Don't Come Around Here No More for Jimmy Iovine. The demo was just music and Dave singing the line, "Don't come around here no more." Now, Jimmy was wowed by what he heard, telling Dave he thought the song was going to be great. And the two of them should make the song for Stevie's new record. Once again, Dave Stewart had no idea about the complexity of the relationships between Jimmy Iovine and Stevie Nicks, but he was soon to find out. Jimmy called Stevie to come over and work with him and Dave, on the Stark demo of Don't Come Around Here No More. Now, when Stevie arrived, she only heard a music bed with that lone lyric.
Hey, don't come around here no more.
Dave could feel the friction between Stevie Nicks and Jimmy Iovine right away, still with no knowledge of their previous relationship, mind you. After spending a long time in the bathroom, Stevie came out with a lyric book and began singing some lyrics into the microphone. Dave said he was mesmerized by what Stevie was singing until Jimmy interrupted her and said, "She's just reciting Shakespeare." And he attempted to get Stevie to change her lyrics. Stevie got pissed and the mood turned very tense between the former lovers. Jimmy exclaimed, "Can you stop arguing with me in front of my friend Dave, please? You don't really know him." And Stevie said, "Your friend? We slept together a couple nights ago." Dave's heart sank with embarrassment, to say the least, wondering what would happen next. Jimmy was quiet, and Stevie didn't say a word either. She just turned and walked out of the studio, left. Undaunted by Stevie's huff, Jimmy wanted to keep working on what he thought would be a hit song, so he had the bright idea to call Tom Petty. Here comes Tom Petty. He happened to be in town, and he came over and started to work on the track.
Give it up, stop.
Now, Tom Petty was a fan of Eurythmics' Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, and he was so impressed with the track, he actually recommended Dave Stewart when Jimmy Iovine asked him who he should enlist to work on tracks for Stevie. After suggesting Dave to Jimmy, Petty didn't give it much more thought. Tom Petty also had a relationship with Stevie, of course, on her first solo album. Two of them had a huge #3 hit as a duet with the Jimmy Iovine produced Stop Dragging My Heart Around. Of course, Tom Petty wrote that with Mike Campbell. Petty came over to Jimmy's studio, and the three of them worked until the wee hours of the morning on the song, with Tom Petty recording a guideline vocal. Now, Stevie returned to Jimmy's studio the following day, and the song was pretty much done with Tom Petty's vocal. So Dave Stewart asked the rock icon to cut a new vocal, and Stevie was dumbfounded. She just looked at the three of them and said, "Really? You think I can top that vocal?" She stood up, thanked Dave and Tom, fired Jimmy, and split, all in the span of like 5 minutes. Dave goes into more amusing detail about what happened in his entertaining memoir, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, A Life in Music. It's such a great read. Meanwhile, Tom Petty, Dave Stewart, and Jimmy Iovine finished Don't Come Around Here No More, and the song that was planned to be for Stevie Nicks actually ended up on the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album, Southern Accents. That was, of course, released in 1985.
Don't come around here no more.
However, the soap opera that surrounded the song didn't end there. The Southern Accents album was supposed to be a double LP and Tom's first solo album produced by Dave Stewart. Instead, it wound up being Petty and the Heartbreakers' single album, with Iovine producing some of the tracks and Dave Stewart producing the rest. The album was such a departure from the prototypical Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers sound. It actually frightened Warner Brothers. In 1984, when Tom and the band were recording the album, Petty was inspired by the bold moves that Prince was making during that pivotal part of his career. He saw Prince doing a contemporary brand of psychedelia, and he loved it. Tom Petty was a big fan of what he was doing. So Tom Petty wanted to keep evolving as an artist, and the last thing he wanted to hear was flack from his record label about the album sounding weird. In fact, he used Prince, who is also a WB artist, as an example of how a different sound can actually work commercially. When Doves Cry was a big smash for Prince in 1984, and his landmark Purple Rain album was more of a cultural movement than a music album. Dave Stewart's sitar parts and Petty's far-out 60s style vocal gave Don't Come Around Here No More a nouveau psychedelia of its own, really. It's always been a mystery behind the background vocals on this track, actually. Dave Stewart performed backing vocals, that's for sure, along with Stephanie Spruill, Stevie's backup singer Sharon Solani, and Marilyn Martin, who most famously sang with Phil Collins on the #1 hit Separate Lives.
To ask me how I feel.
All four of those artists were credited, but many claim that Stevie Nicks sang on the track that she ultimately declined. There are a few people who claim to have the masters to prove it. Stevie Nicks has been silent on the subject, as has Dave Stewart and Tom Petty.
I'm giving up. Stop.
Now, if Stevie sang on the recording, I'm not sure why it wasn't divulged, but it's another bizarre twist to the history of Don't Come Around Here No More. Fending off early label resistance, Don't Come Around Here No More was selected as the lead single from Southern Accents.
Giving up. Stop. I'm waiting any longer.
The song was a heavily played album rock track that rose to #2 on the rock chart. It climbed to #13 on the Billboard Hot 100. Also went to #20 in Canada. Okay, now back to the romcom. The music video for Don't Come Around Here No More was surrounded with controversy, centered around the Alice in Wonderland theme, rekindling Dave Stewart's surreal dalliance with Stevie Nicks.
Whatever you're looking for.
Feminists were incensed about the treatment of a woman being turned into a cake and eaten by the guests at a tea party. Of course, Tom Petty dressed as the Mad Hatter.
Don't come around.
Dave Stewart was sitting on top of a mushroom with a hookah pipe playing a sitar. And the actress Louise Foley playing the part of Alice. The trippy video ends with Tom Petty swallowing Alice in one gulp and then burping softly and wiping his mouth with a napkin. MTV called the video too lascivious and ordered an edited version of the video with the clip of Petty devouring Alice removed entirely. Now, the recording sessions for the Southern Accents album were also shrouded in melodrama. Alcohol and drug use was heavy in the studio during the mixing of Rebels, the opening cut on the record. Petty became frustrated and punched a wall, severely breaking his left hand. Surgeries that followed the outburst left Tom with several pins, wires, and screws that held his hand together. The four core members of the Heartbreakers, Campbell, Tench, Lynch, and Epstein, were leery of Tom Petty's new friendship with Dave Stewart and their lack of involvement in Don't Come Around Here No More. It also had them on edge at all times. It was a discordant time for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, to say the least. Still, Southern Accents was a multi-platinum success, and Don't Come Around Here No More became one of the band's greatest hits. Don't Come Around Here No More, it starts out as a psychedelic wunderkind with so many bells and whistles. I mean, you get lost in musical ecstasy. This track's amazing. I mean, Tom Petty's blazing vocal, it just knocks you sideways silly. It's sensational. And then it kicks into this like Billy Idol Dancing with Myself like guitar jam at the end, and all of a sudden you've shifted into fifth gear. It's one of the most unique songs of the 80s, in my opinion. And the way Petty played it live, it was always just so breathtaking. It's a pop masterpiece, and it proved that Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers were truly timeless. Sounds great today. Tom Petty is a national treasure, and he's sorely missed. Don't Come Around Here No More. It's a fierce musical adventure from start to finish. It's just great exploration. To me, it always sounded like Prince meets the Byrds meets George Harrison in this big acid trip, and yet it's all Tom Petty. I don't think Tom Petty gets enough credit for his broad musical conquest. He was truly a versatile musical chameleon, and at the same time, he could always put his familiar and personal stamp on these songs, where you knew it was him. He was one of the most beloved rock stars of the classic era because we could all, see our reflection in his music. That ability is rare, especially these days. I remember just being mesmerized by the fantastic music video. I remember recording it off of Night Tracks.
Coming up next, join music video's hottest on Night Tracks.
Watching it over and over again. In fact, I remember getting in trouble because I recorded over my sister's gymnastics video of her performance.
On its floor, getting stronger.
I think I got grounded for like a week or something, but Tom Petty, he just tapped into the rock and roll side of Lewis Carroll. Tom Petty in Wonderland. And to think it all started from Stevie Nicks screaming, "Don't Come Around Here No More," to Joe Walsh while Dave Stewart was trying to escape undetected. What a story. Leave us a comment about this epic 80s extravaganza. What are your memories of this spectacular song? What are your thoughts on Tom Petty as a performer and this crazy story? Let us know in the comments below. It's one of my favorite rock and roll stories. If you like this video, we do invite you to subscribe below. Make sure to check us out on Patreon as well for more content. Check out our merch below. All of it is here. Helps us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe.